So we've returned, finally, after many months,
Yeah.
of no activity whatsoever.
Well, there has been activity, just not on the channel.
Just not on the channell. I mean, there has been activity on the channel. People are still watching the videos,
Well, yes.
which is quite nice. And the subscribers have gone up, which is amazing.
Yep.
So we thought we'd come back. We're just going to do something small for the time being. We'd like to come back and do this. I mean, this is not a day job. We have other day jobs, and they've just got busier and busier. I was promoted. I became a manager, which is quite nice, and that's just taking up all my time. I feel like we need this because I need a break from
something other than work. Yeah,
something other than work.
Yeah, I mean, I've got a new job, and that's come with training and all sorts of stuff. So that's exams, which taking over my brain.
Exactly. So we usually just talk about one film, but we're going to do that today. But we've gone out to charity shops. We've bought some films, DVDs from local charity shops. If you don't know what a charity shop is, or if you're looking in from another country, it's a shop run for charities.
Yeah.
And I think the UK have the most.
We're a very charitable nation.
We are very charitable nation.
Is it what in America? Is it a thrift store?
It's a thrift store in America. I'm not sure how charitable, or I mean, obviously, charity shops here are linked to a specific charity. Oxfam being the most famous one, and of course, all the money from that goes back into the charity. I mean, some people might say it goes into the owner's pockets. I don't know. There's been
obviously, that all of it does because they've got to, they've got to pay the rent on the shop. They've got to pay the staff. I mean, some of the staff are volunteers, but not all of them. So, maybe 10p of your pound that you give them actually goes to charity. But, hey, it's better than nothing.
It's better than nothing, exactly.
And you're getting rid, they're getting rid of people's rather than it going into landfill. One man's rubbish is another man's treasure.
And that's it. That's what the charity shop and the thrift store is. It's all second-hand stuff. The first one in this country was the Birmingham Society for the Blind.
Wow.
Set up in 1899. And I think a few, like the Red Cross and then Oxfam, I think they came up during the First World War and the Second World War. And we've got loads in this country anyway. I'm not sure about other countries around the world, what they have. I think Australia has their own charity shops and stores. But yeah, we have loads and loads, and Oxfam is the biggest one in this country. So I went into Hospice in the Weald, which I think is south.
That's local, yeah.
That's locally based. The first one I went into was a toy shop, and how many DVDs there. So I crossed the road and I went into what used to be my granddad's carpet shop.
Ah, okay.
Because he owned carpet shops.
Well, the thing, every time something closes, chances are either a coffee shop or a charity shop.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
That's why we've got so many of them now.
Yes. So I went in there and I like four for £1.
Bargain.
Which was a bargain, yeah. When we have to close up your pockets in these days because heating.
Well, this is the other thing, isn't it? We've got a cost of living crisis.
Cost of living crisis.
Full price.
Exactly.
So, if you need some entertainment, you can't afford Netflix or Sky or things like that.
Yeah,
get yourself down the charity shop and get some films down there.
Exactly. Hence why we can't afford any Blu-rays anymore. So we'll just go to charity shops and talk about films we get in charity shops. It's something to do. So I'm just going to talk about one of them. So what we've decided to do is we bought a few. Mm-hmm. We're not going to talk about the other ones. We're just going to show them quickly, and then we've chosen one that we sat down and watched, and we'll actually talk about here on the channel. So that's kind of the idea for this video. So I bought 4. So the other 3 I got was The Lake House, time travel film with Keanu Reeves and Sandra Bullock. I've seen it before. It's all right. It's a remake of a South Korean film, I think. It's all right. Obviously, the most notable thing about it really is the 2 speed.
Yeah,
actors have come back together again, but it's all right. It's quite fun. I like my time travel, so I got that one. Romancing the Stone and the Jewel of the Nile. So I actually got 5 films.
Yeah, you did. Yeah, true.
Yeah, which was quite cool. Classic film, Romancing the Stone, Jewel of the Nile. It's all right.
I've got that set. I'm sure I paid more than 25p for it. I was ripped off.
Clearly, but no, they're great films. Really enjoyable, those ones. And I got Witness, which I haven't got on. I love this film. Peter Weir, Australian filmmaker. Harrison Ford in the Amish community. But I for a while I've struggled to find this on Blu-ray. I think it is available
in the US.
In the US,
not here,
but not in the UK for some reason.
I haven't seen it for years.
It's a great film. It's possibly, if we do go back to doing rediscovering, it's one we should perhaps do because it's a great film. However, the one I'm going to talk about is one I'd never heard of. Whether that's a good thing or not, I don't know. And it's called Forbidden Ground. I wouldn't recommend it.
Even for 25p?
Even for 25p. I mean, it's an Australian film, but it's actually set in Britain. So it's British troops in the First World War.
Right.
And the plot is they essentially They go out over, they go over the top, over into no man's land. 3 of them get kind of caught, in a crater. And then they have to kind of find their way out. And it's very low budget. I'm not quite sure why they chose to make them British, because the accents were a little bit all over the place. I mean, it's low budget.
So they're supposed to be British soldiers?
They're all supposed to be British soldiers, yeah. So I'm not quite sure. I mean, the Australians obviously were in the First World War. I mean, Gallipoli is a great First World War film. There have been other war films from Australia, some really, really great ones, including Gallipoli. Not this one, unfortunately. I mean, I think massive respect to what they did for what the budget they had. I mean, the war setting, I think, looks really authentic. There's a bit too many close-up shots, I think, to kind of maybe hide the fact that they've got a low budget. And there's a lot of CGI blood effects, which look a bit never looks great, especially if you don't have much. If you've got a big budget and you use CGI, obviously you can make it work. But if you've got a low budget and you use CGI, there's also lots of flashback scenes to kind of another side plot going on, which I wasn't really invested in, because the characters and the acting was a bit ropey. For me, it fell foul, unfortunately. It's a shame, because I think some people said, before they made it, there were kind of high hopes it was going to be not an epic, but it was going to be pretty good war film. I don't know a lot about it. It was directed by Johan Earl, who's actually born in Sweden, and the cast is kind of a mixture of mostly Australians, a couple of British actors in there. I mean, like I said, hats off to them for making it look quite authentic. But it's a World War I film, and we've had hundreds of them. Yeah. And
when you're up against the likes of like 1917 and stuff like that,
and the recent All Quiet on the Western Front was also remade.
Yeah.
I haven't seen that one yet. So when you're up against, it's fine. There are great, there are low budget films which are great, but this one, sadly not.
Yeah, I mean, when you told me about it, I hadn't heard of it, and I looked it up, and the reviews weren't favourable, and said much the same that the CGI was poor, and that there was too many close-ups, and I think it probably a victim of its low budget, where they maybe had ideas above what was achievable with the budget that they had. So,
absolutely.
Maybe if they'd gone for something a little bit smaller, maybe they would have got more out of it.
I mean, the idea is nice, getting lost in the out in the no man's land, and obviously you've got your guys, they're trying to get back to the British line, but obviously they've got the German. I mean, that's the other thing. All the Germans are very kind of po-faced German killing machine. That's all they're there to do, is just kill the British. Not great. I wouldn't recommend it. But hey, I got it for 25p. So I can't really complain. I can't complain too much.
I mean, this is the thing, not just because it's cheap doesn't mean it's going to be great. And it's good to have a hunt, but maybe if you see something I'm not sure about that, if you've got your phone, maybe give it a quick Google first, and if it's crappy reviews across the board, maybe put it back on the shelf and choose something else. If it's crap, doesn't really matter. Then you can just give it back to the charity shop, can't you?
You just take it back to the charity shop. Someone else can pay 25p. Someone else can do that.
And then they made 50p out of one DVD.
So that was my pick. So good, cool. A good selection. I thought I got.
Yeah. So I went to a few different ones. I went to Sense. I'm not sure what they do, but I assume it's to do with senses like hearing and sight and things like that.
Yeah.
But they've got a big selection, and they do 3 for £1. So not quite as good as your Hospice in the Wild, but not too bad. 2 of mine were sealed though, so I got 45 Years, which is Tom Courtenay and Charlotte Rampling.
Yeah.
And I was aware of it, I hadn't seen it, so I thought I'd check that out. Still sealed, nice. This one, Tommy Lee Jones, I hadn't heard of that, but again, still sealed. It was £9. And I got it for like 33.3p. So somebody spent their hard-earned £9 on that, and then just chucked it in the charity bin. So
I've never.
But no, I mean, it's like a serial killer thing, and apparently, once I got it home, I had a look at some reviews, and they seemed quite favourable. So I was pleased with that. And Smart People, another one I hadn't heard of. Familiar with the cast. You've got Dennis Quaid and Thomas Hayden Church and that, and it says from the producers of Sideways, obviously Thomas Hayden Church was in Sideways, and that's a pretty enjoyable film. I'm a good fan of that. Yeah. So whether it's similar, I don't know. I looked at the reviews of that, and it wasn't quite as favourable, but again, like we said, if it's cheap and it's crap, well, you haven't lost much money. And then I went to the British Heart Foundation. I got In the Name of the Rose,
which is a great film. You haven't seen it, have you?
I haven't seen it. No, I've always wanted to.
It's very cool.
Monks, rather.
Yeah.
A monk murder mystery, isn't it?
It's really good. I think they did a TV version of it recently.
Yeah, they did. Yeah.
But it's really good. I haven't seen it for years. That's another one that would be a good rediscovery. Actually.
Yeah, no, definitely. Yeah, and that was only a quid. And again, that's similar to Witness. There's no Blu-ray in the UK.
Right.
I think there was in the US, but I think it's out of print now, so it's quite hard to get. Yeah, my final one was from the British Red Cross, and that was £1.50, the most expensive one. But again, another film I hadn't heard of, but obviously I'm familiar with Jean Reno, and it was produced by and written by Luc Besson, so familiar with both of them. Because, they collaborated for Leon and Big Blue. I think Jean Reno was in as well.
Great.
So yeah, that's the one I thought I would talk about today. So put that there.
I watched it as well.
Yeah, because you hated yours so much. So basically, Jean Reno is a cop who he likes to talk with his fists, shall we say? Yeah. So he gets in a bit of trouble when he goes to a nightclub to arrest somebody, and then he's punching his way out and accidentally punches the chief's son, who ends up in hospital. He gets some paid leave for a couple of months, so he tries to sort of rekindle a relationship with a sort of I don't know, is she sort of on-off girlfriend, isn't she? Played by Carol Bouquet, who was in For Your Eyes Only with Roger Moore, and
that's where I've seen it. Yeah.
She's gorgeous, obviously, but he's not very keen, and that's because he's sort of still holding a flame for his first love, who he met in Japan by the name of Miko, who ran out on him 19 years ago. But he still can't let it go.
Right.
So, and he's not really had any successful relationships since because he just can't move on.
Yeah.
Anyway, it just so happens, massive coincidence, he's got all this spare time and he gets a phone call to tell him that Miko has sadly passed away. She's put him in her will and he needs to get to Japan sharpish.
Very sharpish.
For the reading of the will. Yeah. So, he's got all this time in his hands, so off he goes.
Why not?
And he finds out that he's got a 19-year-old daughter. And he meets up with an old colleague called Momo, who, so basically, when he was there, I think he was like in the Secret Service or something like that, wasn't he? And
something like,
and Miko
French
was,
intelligence.
Miko was a spy as well, and they sort of bonded over their spying, I guess, and stuff. So, but yeah, he still doesn't really know why she ran out on him and why she never told him that he had a daughter. There's a sort of mystery throughout the film. Then there's these guys sort of shadowing them and following them. When they find out what exactly is going on, he thinks there's been maybe some foul play with Miko's death. So yeah, he punches his way around Tokyo. It's sort of an action comedy, isn't it, really? But it's billed as action, but there's a couple of shootouts and a couple of punch-ups, but nothing, it's not an action fest. And to be honest, in the sort of middle, it kind of sags a bit. It takes a while to... There's not a lot happens. So yeah, if you're expecting all-out action, then you won't get it. But Jean Reno is always likeable. He's really good in it. Fun to watch, and it's the violent, the action there is kind of exaggerated. Every time he punches or shoots somebody, they go flying across the room.
Yeah.
So it's a little bit on the ridiculous side, but it has it came out in 2001, and it has got that sort of late 90s, early 90s vibe. Luc Besson produced Taxi. I would say it's very similar to that.
Well, I think the director directed.
He directed Taxi 2, 3, and 4. Yeah, it's very similar to the Taxi movies, and it's it's got all the sort of techno soundtrack that was the big thing in that sort of period.
There's one odd moment when they're in a clothing store. So his daughter goes to buy some because he wants to. So in the will, she's got a load of money from her mum. That's kind of where's this money come from. That's part of the plot. And he gives her a little bit of it because she can't access it till she's 20, which is like in 2 days' time. He gives her like $2,000. I think they're working in dollars here, but obviously in Japan it's yen. And she goes to this. She's like, "Oh, I'm going to go and spend all this money. Great." Then these guys, I think it's the first time you see these guys kind of turn up and they're kind of like following him, and he obviously noticed that they're following him. And then the music, "Poisoned" by The Prodigy, starts playing, which is quite a fast-paced number. But then the fight scene that ensues doesn't because you're expecting it to kind of be all out, totally anarchic, completely mental. In this, I mean, the idea is that she obviously doesn't see what's going on while he's like punching all these bad guys out in slightly amusing ways. But I felt like the music didn't quite match up the pace of the action that was going on, which was a shame because I thought it could have been more anarchic than it perhaps was. I actually I thought it was good fun. I really enjoyed it. I'm amazed how many of them could speak French in Tokyo.
Well, yeah, I was going to say the same thing. I didn't know it was such a common language in Japan. But I guess, then I thought, well, a lot of, British and American films where they go to another country, all the foreign people always speak English a lot of the time.
Yeah.
Just to avoid having to have all the subtitles. So, again, it's a French film, so to avoid having to have loads of subtitles, they're in Japan, so there's going to be people speaking Japanese a lot.
Yeah.
So it's easier just to have them speak French.
Yeah. In fact,
and obviously Jean Reno can't speak Japanese, so
no. And the as far as we know,
well, but I'm assuming not.
The daughter, the actress playing the daughter, Yumi.
Yeah.
So the actress playing, what was the actress?
It's Ryoko Hirosu.
So she couldn't speak French and learnt it phonetically.
Oh wow!
Which is an amazing thing to do. A lot of actors do that sometimes.
Because most of her lines are in French, aren't they?
Yeah, most of her lines are in French. Yeah, and I think that's I think Peter Lorre did English in one of his films, one of the Hitchcock films. I think he did. I can't remember which one it was. I won't go there. It's quite an amazing thing to learn a language phonetically because you're not actually really understanding it. You're just speaking it.
Yeah.
So she did that with this film. I enjoyed it. I thought it was a lot better than what I had to sit through. And it's got some fun stuff in there, and it's a bit silly.
Yeah.
And it's
just sort of a bit of light entertainment, really, isn't it? Yeah.
Absolutely. It's not too violent. It's not gory at all. Yeah. If you like Taxi, which we did do on the channel.
Yeah, we did.
You probably would like this. I haven't been around a lot of the world. Tokyo is the furthest. Japan is the furthest I've ever been, and so it's always nice watching films because it's such a recognisable city.
Yeah,
and it's a beautiful city, and it's an amazing place to visit. Tokyo. Good pick.
Thanks. I was pleased with that for £1.50.
Yeah, great. No, I think it was good. I really enjoyed it. So thanks for that. So that's basically this video. We don't know when we'll be back. We'll try. I think we're not going to be doing weekly again at the moment, but we will be back. Whether we do another one like this or we just maybe choose another film. We're just hey, it's our channel. We can do what we want.
Exactly.
And we might do the odd film here and there. We might try a few other things, but we'll try and come back instead of coming back in a year because it's been a year. We did a couple.
We did some Blu-ray reviews.
We did some Blu-rays.
Sort of October, November time. But
our last one was a year ago, which was just unfortunate. Yeah. These things happen. I've missed it. I have missed it. We did it for 5 years, non-stop, and it's pretty heavy going. Yeah. And I think the thing is also, and I've seen other, there's this kind of classic YouTube burnout. If you burn out and stop, you won't get back into it. You'll just, that's it. And I think that's what happened with me because I edit them as well, and I just was like, too much.
So scale it back a bit, and every 2 weeks maybe we might try and aim for, but just don't hold us to it.
Yeah, no, please don't.
But in the meantime, while you're waiting for another video, get yourselves down the charity shops, do some good, and get some films, and let us know what you pick up.
Let us know what you pick up, or if you have done already. Because there's some interesting stuff, and it's not just charity shops as well. I go to like National Trust properties, and they often have like a second-hand bookshop. Yeah, they often have like boxes of DVDs.
I got Roadhouse from a National Trust property.
Oh, okay, all right. So National Trust properties as well, and charity shops. That's where it's at.
Yeah.
When we don't have
in the cost
money.
Of living crisis.
Exactly. Yeah. So great.
See you next time.
See you next time.